LSU at Missouri is our final read of the week here. Another SEC showdown. I think interesting setup going into this game. We just talked about Kentucky and Georgia, and here's Missouri not getting a lot of national respect, even though they're 5-0. They could win this game and be 6-0 and set up a huge showdown against Kentucky next week. We wondered who is the second best team in the East. Well, Kentucky got a big win last week. Missouri's just been chipping them away all season. I think the setup for this game is pretty simple. LSU's defense is struggling way more than we expected coming into the season. A lot of this just doesn't make sense. The secondary is a major issue. Tackling is a major issue. Depending on where you looked, it was either 17 missed tackles. I think Brian Kelly said they had 34. Some sites have them as one of the worst missed tackle teams in the Power 5 this year. So tackling should be on the menu this week for LSU at practice, because they're going to get a quarterback in Brady Cook who's been red hot. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC to start the season. Luther Burden and an emerging group of receivers around him. So I think, does LSU have any improvement on defense after last week's debacle at Ole Miss? And they're also going on into a road environment of Missouri, where they're going to be pretty fired up, getting a vulnerable LSU team here at home and a chance to go 6-0.
So biggest game of Eli Drinkwitz's coaching career, probably no question. Biggest game in Columbia since fill in the blank. Luther Burden, to me, 4 straight 100-yard games. He is Stephon Diggs. That is my NFL comp. He looks, plays, the body control. He's maybe a little thicker than Stephon Diggs, but I think if you watch him and you go watch Stephon Diggs, just tell me I'm wrong about that. You mentioned Brady Cook, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, 300 yards, 3 straight games. Kirby Moore. All this stuff leads me to one big factor, which is packaged with the fact that Vegas is telling you they think LSU is going to play really well in this game. LSU -6 on the road against an undefeated Missouri team in which every matchup on paper favors Missouri. What are we talking about here? Vegas wants you to take Missouri. So what are we doing? Sucker bet alert here. Same thing with Alabama. Sucker bet there. What I find interesting is, just like we've been talking about with all these teams this week, can you handle the stage? I think here's what's interesting. The noon kickoff time hurts Missouri from a national spotlight prestige standpoint and getting the crowd drunk and rowdy, but it also may make it easier to play in the game, because if this was a night game with game day and the buildup can get to your head if you're a young team that has not played in these types of situations. This is what we just talked about with all these other games this week. Can you handle the pressure of the moment, the pressure, the gravity of the situation, the biggest home game in your head coach's career? LSU's played in these games. Yes, they lost to Florida State. Yes, they lost to Ole Miss, but they beat Arkansas in a shootout on a national stage. They were right there with Ole Miss. They've played in these games. They were there in all these big games last year with Jayden Daniels, and no one's stopping the LSU offense. Maybe not even Missouri's defense. So to me, this is every matchup on paper says Missouri should win this game. Vegas is telling you otherwise, and the only thing I can come up with is that Missouri is not used to this moment yet, this situation, and how do they handle that? And again, that's really vague and a really kind of strange way to explain it, but that's what I want to see. Is Brady Cook's never played in a game like this. Kirby Moore's never coached in a game like this. Eli Drinkwitz has never coached in a game like this. Luther Burden's never played in a game. None of these players have played in a game like this. I mean, maybe the Georgia game last year gave them some, the feel of this moment, but there's expectations on this team, and that's a different thing for a football program.
LSU also has played 2 top 15 teams this year, Ole Miss, and they played Florida State. So I think there's certainly an element to, they're more battle tested against high profile opponents compared to Missouri. The win over Kansas State for Missouri was great, and Memphis is a pretty solid win as well. So I think you can make the argument LSU, while they've lost the 2 games, I mean, they were a play away from winning last week, and maybe the conversation here is different. And
again, Arkansas is an arch rival on a national stage in prime time, and they went toe to toe, and LSU won the game.
Yeah, I think their strength of schedule has been better, sure, or the high level opponents that they face so far. I think the other, we talked about the defensive woes for LSU. You start looking at some of the numbers a little deeper. 3 of the 4 games they've played against Power 5 opponents, they've allowed 56% or higher on third down conversions. the secondary has just been an issue all year. I think Brady Cook and these Missouri receivers can attack it. I think the question is going to be on the other side for me. Jayden Daniels is red hot, and the Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas are probably going to go over 100 yards receiving. One of these defenses is going to have to make a stop or two. Now, on paper, that should be Missouri based upon the personnel and the stats this year. But there's also just an element of maybe LSU just sort of rallies around, circles the wagon, comes back after a disastrous performance and plays better defensively. There is no reason that a defense that has Mason Smith, Harold Perkins, and Mekhi Wingo should be this bad. Really no reason for it.
Yep, I agree. And that's what's weird about the Vegas line is like they're saying, no, you guys don't understand. LSU's just better. Like that's what they're saying with that point spread. And that's so weird because, like you said, the better defense, Missouri. The home field advantage, Missouri. Like everything sort of points from a matchup standpoint to Missouri, and it just makes you go, wait a second here. Like this feels like they're taking my money with Missouri plus the 6.5. Like, what am I? This seems too easy. What are we doing here? So, LSU's not going to go away. That's going to be clear, and it is the biggest test in every sense of the word for Missouri. And much like the Maryland Ohio State game, show us you can do it. Show us you can do it. And if you do this, you're right. Missouri is off and flying, man. And I have an apology for everybody about another team that I totally missed on, but Missouri is a team we talked about on this show as being much better than people thought all summer long. So go prove us right, Missouri.